On a sunny day in South Korea, there's a man trying to buy groceries, but when he takes a chip snack, the bags snap open and the content inside is gushing out. There's a little girl looking at him, asking him whether he is stealing or something. But suddenly, a sudden earthquake occurred in the vicinity, but the scale is small so there's no casualties. Then a bigger earthquake happens. Looking outside, the man sees there's something erupting from the earth. There's a massive tower that appears from beneath the ground, crushing everyone nearby. The man protects the kid trying to get to safety. When the earthquake finally stopped, he looks outside seeing the tower fully erect. It turns out that the tower wasn't only appeared in South Korea, the humongous structure appeared in the cities of every country in the world. And people call it the Tower of Nightmares. A notification appears on so many selected humans, saying that they have chosen as a tower walker to save the world. Those who jumped into the tower's battlefield after accepting the summons received the blessing of the interface system, which enable them to obtain items and skills as if it were a game. However, they would soon realize that this wasn't a game. The interface system tells them that a tower impact will take place in the world. It also shows the world outside the tower where the people who don't get moved into the tower do a construction work to clean up the mess. The worker then realized something from the tower. He sees that a creature had come out from there. The tower impact is the great disaster in which monsters would overflow from the tower onto the Earth's surface. They destroy everything in sight, not even the modern army can cope with. Because of the monster that overflowed from the tower, a third of the world's population was annihilated, while those in the tower had no choice but to watch it happen. Those with special powers and qualifications were the last hope of humanity. Then the walkers started to raid the tower in order to stop the annihilation of humanity. At one point, the walkers came across a dead end. Upon trying to destroy the obstacle, they find a shining stone called Return Stone, which allows the user return back in time to around when they were summoned, with the user's current memories will be fully retained. Huang, the captain of the tower walkers, immediately uses it, saying that he is going to tell the others what it's like after he uses it. When he breaks the stone, a light filled up the room and he disappears, leaving the others confused whether he is really back to the past. Sakamoto, formerly a science professor, thinks that Huang is definitely returned to the past. However, because a part of timeline got split up, Huang may not be able to meet them again. He explained that using the prominent science theories like the multiverse theory and parallel universe theory, their current situation is one where the universe's timeline got split up. In other words, the moment that Huang disappeared into the past, their world and Huang's world have completely split apart. The other walkers is confused, but in any case, what's for sure is that Huang returned to the past. But just because he went back to the past, it doesn't mean that anything in the current world will change. Because as far as Sakamoto knows, the tower system never have lied before. And he explained it to the others that the stone will return them to a world in a different split timeline. He adds that the items from the tower exceed the common sense of humanity after all. Not long after, the second tower impact occurred in the world outside of the tower. Before all of humanity on Earth is annihilated, the walkers must make a decision, whether they use the return stone and return to the past or remaining in the tower and die. In the end, one who don't have enough strength to climb uses the stone to return, leaving behind the one that wants to fight in their current world. As one going to get devoured by the monster, there's someone with a double dagger comes into the fight. The slashes is so strong it basically obliterate the monster. Finishes dealing with the monster. He asks the walker whether he is alright. Behind him then come a group of people who stays in the tower to hold on until the very end. They were the humanity last hope, the people who weren't tempted by the return stone, the Carpe Diem. On the battle in the upper floor, confronting a masked monster boss, Yan Huan diverting the boss aggro, calling out to Ja Huan to land his attacks. With the combo of the two, they decapitated the masked boss easily. Dealing with the aftermatch, fortunately there is no casualties and only light injuries on the squad. Going at the fast pace, they think that they might be able to reach the final floor. Upon checking the drop of the boss, Ja Huan get a weapon called a suppressing dragon sword. Although, it was all seems going in the humanity's favor, going up against the 98th floor, Chamber of Purgatory. All of the squad is slain, leaving only the duo. They fight tooth and nail to beat the boss, as Yan Huan screams that he can't beat it on his own, asking Ja Huan to get his head together and start beating the boss. But it doesn't go the way they want. Sadly, Yan Huan gets stabbed by the boss's horn, leaving him incapable of fighting back anymore. The boss then ran towards a castle wall to stamp Yan Huan between the wall and its head. With the last strength he has, Ja Huan tries to fight the boss in retaliation of it killing his only friend remaining. He grab his sword then start dashing towards the boss. It notices the attack though, but there is something different with Jia Huan. With all of his remaining strength, Jia Huan trusts his sword like no tomorrow then defeat the boss. Sadly, Yan Huan left with a severe wound and have no way of recovering. With the return stone in hand, he apologizes, making Jia Huan remembers that Kim Yan Huan, in that cruel and dreary tower he never lost his smile. Because of it, the walkers calls him Smile Knight. And now that Smile Knight lost his smile for the first time, Jia Huan then turns away from him, telling him to just go before he change his mind. With that, Jia Huan becomes the only walker remaining in the higher floor of the tower, intending to finish the last floor by himself. As he tries to open the 99th floor, he reminiscences the past about his time spent with the squad. What welcomed him behind the floor is a snowfield, and inside, he immediately fight an ice dragon, who obviously he can't defeat yet. Hiding from the dragon, Jia Huan's hand get frozen. He explained that it's been 10 years since he has reached the 99th floor. Even though he faced numerous crises on his way up until the 98th floor, the level of danger on the 99th floor was incomparable to any of the lower levels. The boss of the 99th floor, ice dragon called Velchicus. The breath of this dragon, which came from the Forgotten Land, was hard to withstand, even with cold resistance at the highest possible level. If not for the piece of equipment that were abandoned by the walkers who left, he would have died a long time ago. The suppressing dragon sword that he got on the 85th floor, the ice demon armor that Yan Huan gave him, and the Flame King's bracelet that Han Sioil gives. Thinking about her, he wakes up in the smithy warming up himself. Currently, he resides in the village that was reclaimed after defeating the 50th floor's boss, the monstrous dragon Ultimeanus, called Atopos. Although there were dead or injured walkers that came in every day, people never gave up hope. The priests had established emergency rescue units to rescue raiders that were no longer able to fight. And the blacksmiths of the workshops created equipment for the walkers, who fought for the sake of humanity free of charge. Jia Huan speaks to Jay, implying that he might be the last blacksmith in Atopos. He then explained that supplies doesn't come from the lower floors anymore nowadays. It turns out that there were still some supplies of minerals up until a few months ago. Jia Huan assumes that there's no more living humans within the tower. He don't even know what year it is now. He thoughts that there have been more than 10 tower impacts that have occurred so far, and from some point in time, people no longer got summoned to the first floor's summoning ground and climbed up the tower. Talking with Jay, Jia Huan guesses that the human on Earth got wiped out. While thinking about it, there is something that bothering Jia Huan. At the place where the return stone was first found, there is some strange scribbles read tower within tower, nightmare within nightmare. As 2 days ago, Grandma Hylian disappeared, Jay's partner. One doesn't age within the tower. If someone disappeared in the tower, it's for one of two reasons. Either they returned to the past with the return stone or they jumped off the tower. Thinking about there's no supporting walkers anymore, Jia Huan asks Jay to teach him blacksmith skill. Later that day, Jia Huan faces the ice dragon again. Ultimeanus says that no human has ever made it to the 99th floor alone ever since the creation of the Tower of Nightmare, making him acknowledge Jia Huan as he is an incredible human. Jia Huan mocks the dragon, saying that he would feel so empty after killing Ultimeanus, adding, even the armor that Ultimeanus is so proud of, starting to have cracks. As Jia Huan jumps into the dragon's breath, but it doesn't take long for Jia Huan to be defeated, being stuck at the wall with frozen solid hand and leg. Ultimeanus says that even after Jia Huan fighting to the end, even if he tries to persistently hold on, in the end, the fate that he will face is overbearing solitude and nothingness. Jia Huan remembers all of his fallen allies, saying that the dragon talked too much. He break free from the ice prison. With the sword in hand, he went for another thrust towards the dragon. Even Ultimeanus mocks him. With only mere thrust he wouldn't be able to defeat the dragon. For Jia Huan, he started raiding the tower later than other people. Because of that, he missed things like hidden skills and classes every single time. That's why he cleanly gave up on other skills and focused on just one, the thrust. He thrusted and thrusted again. After he killed over 50 million monster with his thrust, his comrades thought his pronoun was thrust. He felt his thrust was going through a change. Every time he thrust, it becomes faster, more precise and stronger. As a result, his thrust surpassed a simple motion and started to gain attack power comparable to a hidden skill. And because of it wasn't a skill, he never become tired because it didn't consume spirit power. That's when he scratched the dragon after more than hundreds of thrusts. As Ultimeanus has enough of it, intending to finish Jia Huan off, he uses dragon breath point blank on him. Knowing that it's too late to dodge, Jahuan is surprised to see a light into the dragon. It was the same light that he saw on the 98th floor. With that, he gives everything he got, thrusting into the dragon. And this time, it works splendidly. Jahuan completely blows away the dragon chin. The enraged dragon flies up in the sky, barraging dragon breath towards the tiny human beneath him. And Jahuan can only evade as he has no way to close the gap between them, as his body can't keep up with the freezing cold air in the area. Jahuan fails to run away to recover. The ice dragon lands right in front of him, saying that if there were 10 more humans like Jahuan, he would be defeated. If only the walkers weren't fooled by the mayor's stone, Jahuan's fate would have been completely different. Hearing about it, Jahuan is surprised, then asking about the mayor's stone. But Alteminus refuses to answer and strike Jahuan instead. Fortunately, even he fails to get any answer from the ice dragon. Jahuan manages to run away from the fight to recover his frozen body part. Being back in front of the door of the 99th floor, Jahuan thoughts about the dragon mentioned the mayor's stone. But for the moment, he decides to brush it off. 5 years later, Jahuan finally slays Alteminus, the ice dragon. With it also comes a lot of notification to Jahuan. Before Alteminus' soul disappears, he asks again about the mayor's stone, which the ice dragon indicates that Jahuan already knows the answer to that question. Alteminus adds that he will learn everything on the last floor, while also receives an ice dragon sword from Alteminus' drop. Then the door to the 100th floor open, and Jahuan immediately enter the door. He come inside a floor called a control room, where he can see the current state of the tower. Suddenly there's a monster talking to him, saying that he is already here, while the monster assumes that Jahuan would go back to the village first. Jahuan immediately prepares for battle, and what shows up is a notification saying that he is the first to have cleared all the tutorial games of World 294. His amazing achievement has been recorded in the Undying Library, the Akashic Records. That record will be preserved such that it can only be viewed by the monarchs of the Almighty Land. Jahuan is surprised to learn that all of that is only a tutorial, remembering that everyone that ever entered the tower is dead now, and God knows what happened to the humanity outside the tower. A monster with a lion head wearing a full suit shows up, and the first thing Jahuan asks is who the heck he is. He introduces himself as the demon Beastrain. He is the owner of the Tower of Nightmares that Jahuan had just cleared. Jahuan tries to confirm whether all of that is really just the tutorial. Beastrain then shows something to him. It shows the earlier days when Jahuan starts being a walker. He shows how Jahuan and his comrades, all the time they spent together and all the fight they have been through. Jahuan silently watching as the demon reminds him all of that sadness, anger and regrets, adding that it's natural for there to be useless emotions when faced with the past. The demon then offers him to start all over again, adding that it is amazing benefit for Jahuan, because that would be something that only happens in a novel in Earth, the absolute being who starts from the beginning with all their memories. Jahuan realized that all of the walker had been fooled by the demon from the start. There's no way for humanity to stop the tower impacts, and the only thing humanity can do was to keep raiding the tower. The salvation of humanity was just a false hope. Then Jahuan refused to go back to the past, as his promise to be the Carpe Diem. The demon then laughed hysterically, saying that no item in the tower nor in the Almighty Land will be able to send anyone back to the past. Jahuan then remembers that Alteminus ever mentioned about the Mirror Stone. He is devastated to learn that all of the walkers who ever walks besides him in the tower is tricked by the demon. It turns out that the return stone is a mayor's stone. The demon explains that the mayor's stone doesn't send back the user to the past. Instead, they are trapped in the dreams that the mayor creates. And up until the higher floor, only Jahuan had the obsession to finish the tower. In the end, he refused to accept the offer for going back to the past and to start over, because thanks to the demon's explanation, Jahuan now knows what the Tower of Nightmare is. He assumes that he already in the dream that the mayor's stone made, so he decides to hunt Beastrain and go to the next floor. As Beastrain tries to explain something else, Jahuan just suddenly thrusts him with the sword he get from the ice dragon. But it seems to be not that easy though, as Beastrain just recover his severed head, and offers Jahuan anything he wants if he accept the demon's offer. But Jahuan don't want anything else now, he just want to thrust his way up to the higher floor. The demon even tries to deceive him, saying that since he is already within the dream of the Tower of Nightmare, he shows that the outside world is fine, and all of the tower walkers is in a comatose state. Beastrain also claims that Jahuan will never be able to win against him, because compared to him who barely manages to clear the tutorial, the demon is completely different entity from the tower monsters. But Jahuan didn't back down. With the sword in hand, he keeps thrusting. The fight doesn't last long. Jia Huan goes back to the smithy beaten up with potions in hand. As of now, he is the last person to be the walker in the tower and fixing his own equipment. This day marks the 72nd attempt, though Jia Huan has challenged Beastrain every day without rest. No matter how, he can't leave a scratch on the demon. However, Jia Huan always able to comes out alive from the fight. Strangely, the demon wants Jia Huan to be alive, and he doesn't have any intention of killing Jia Huan. That's why, no matter how many years it would take, Jia Huan will not give up. At the control room, Beastrain watch everything Jia Huan does. He reveals that he is a cultivator, and it's a first time seeing something like that. He explained that a cultivator ensures that a product will adapt safely to the almighty land by putting it through a secondary cultivation process so that the product ripens and is enhanced. The primary process is culling undesirable seeds so only the good ones remain, which is done through the tutorial game, which seeks out the good products. With that, the chosen product can begin to truly grow through the real game. Thus, the secondary process is providing the chosen seeds with water and fertilizer and growing them. Beastrain is so ecstatic to learn that his tower able to have such a product, but to think that the product himself refuses to move on to the next stage. It gives him a hard time because he can't kill the product himself, afraid of the consequences that might arise. Jia Huan is a special product for the demon, so the gods keeps contacting him about it. As of right now, Jia Huan doesn't even have any stats to increase, but he's still unable to reach Beastrain. So he questioned the system of the tower as a whole, which makes him feel something. To question the system of the world, he sees something strange that took on the form of fine particle as well as jagged sugar cubes. Each time they changed, they took a different form. That particles were the essence of that world. No matter the form, he instinctively understood what it was. As Beastrain thought about the consequences, Jia Huan appears from behind and thrusting the demon with the black sword. Beastrain keep trying to tell Jia Huan to move to the next phase, but his eyes is set. With a solid determination to kill the cultivator, Jia Huan keeps thrusting and thrusting. Having no patience left, Beastrain hold him off, asking what the heck Jia Huan wants, so he willing to move to the next phase. Finally, he feels that he finally got the demon. He thoughts that it's a good thing he held out until the demon's breaking point. So, Beastrain explained that in truth, the universe isn't made up of just a single dimension. The main dimensional level is called the Almighty Land, and under that there are countless alterations that branch out from it. Earth is just one of the small planets in a dimensional system that were scattered from the countless alterations. They call Earth the 294th world. While in the Tower of Nightmares, walkers can earn skills and items. Then while working on their status, they will adapt to the system of the Almighty Land, and they will earn a chance to travel to a new world. As for the demons, their role is to support the process. Beastrain explained further that the Tower of Nightmares is summoned to Earth was merely by chance that it was chosen by Beastrain. But what Jia Huan asks next is nothing like that. He asks why someone like Beastrain operating the Tower of Nightmares, making the demon flustered. Beastrain tells him that he was volunteering to do it, adding that there are many demons among them that watch over special walkers on different planets. They made a paradise where humans, monsters, and demons can all live together in peace. Jia Huan then asks about the monarch, which Beastrain explained that they are the rulers of the Almighty Land. Generally, the ones who clear the real game and enter the Almighty Land are invited to join their forces. Jia Huan tells the demons that in exactly 10 days, he will leave that place. He uses that 10 days to train his thrust all day long, while the demon keep watch over him. Beastrain is uneasy thinking that he got scammed by the seller of the tower. It turns out that he bought a tower said to be made by a master, but it was only a first generational which so old that he couldn't tell how old the tower was. With the first generation tower, he can't force to end the tutorial without the consent from the walkers. So, the only thing he can do is to wait the promised day to come. And on the 10th day, Beastrain gives a prompt notification to Jia Huan asking him to end the tutorial phase. Instead of ending the tutorial, Jia Huan thrusts the demon again, confuses Beastrain. After being able to see the particles, Jia Huan thrusting motion had become unstable. But, every time he thrusted, he felt a strange sense of discomfort. He felt as if a certain sense was awakening, making him more determined than ever to hunt the demon. For the first time after so long, Jia Huan smiles thinking about the feeling that he has, the sense of being alive. Having enough out of it, Beastrain uses black ironwood to root Jia Huan. The demon explained that the tower is programmed to end in 100 days after the tutorial is finished, so he needs Jia Huan to stay rooted until then and move to the next phase. But Jia Huan doesn't stay still though. He released something strange, light enveloping the room, making the demon afraid of what Jia Huan has become. and he destroys the ironwood that root him, then starts attacking Beastrain again. But this time, he is able to hurt the demon, and it was the first time Beastrain witnessed a power of the overload adapter from a mere tower walker.